Hello, everyone. Welcome to C. Thomas Talk. And I want to talk about a question that I've been thinking about for a long time. I'm pretty sure many people have also, and probably never bothered to ask the question, for whatever reason. But I want to ask it: as we, as a species, just species in general, but especially human species, as we travel on this planet throughout our years, we live, we love, we laugh, we cry, we have families, we get angry, we fight, and eventually we all pass away, we all die. And we do all of these things throughout the years, throughout the history of our species. And as a species, we marvel at the majesty of nature, right? We marvel at what's beyond our comprehension, and we look up at the stars and we see countless stars, and we wonder, are we alone? Um, is there intelligent life, aliens, all that stuff? And we ask the question, is there a God? Is there a God? Because we've gone through our entire history of a species, looking everywhere to see if, just as a natural curious species, we human beings are naturally curious. This curiosity has brought about some interesting questions. Like I said, where do we come from? Are we alone in the universe? What happens after we die? Um, the concept of consciousness. And like I said, one of the biggest questions that we always ask is there a God? And this debate has been going on, I don't know how long our species has been, for as long as our species has been around, but it's been going on since our species has been on this planet. And despite the many times we've asked a question and the many people that have come about with answers either for or against the answers of whether there's a God or not, there's never been a concrete, definitive answer. Now, that aside, the issue is when there is no there in my opinion, there is no concrete answer as to whether or not there is a God. No one actually knows whether there is or isn't. All we have, from my understanding, is belief and speculation as to whether or not there's a God. And I always ask the question, well, if there is a God, where does God come from? Um, is God a man or a woman? And throughout the years, I've encountered people who say, "Well, no, God the Father," or it's like that. But I've always these are questions that I have. I'm just gonna ask some questions. If there is a God, well, play this. Do I believe? If somebody's gonna ask me directly, Chris, do you believe in a supreme being? I say yes, I do. I won't say being, because being means to exist. Well, yeah. Do you believe in something that is greater than yourself? Do you believe in a supreme being? Yes. What do you call that's like? What do you call supreme being? I mean, I was raised in believing the Abrahamic faith, Judaism, Christian, Islam. I was raised of the Christian faith, and I still believe in many chance. But as I got older, even as a young child, I always asked questions about what I was taught. That's just how my brain works. If I hear something, I've never been the kind of person to just take something at face value and just that's it. I was always curious as to where where it came from, where the information came from. Like, where did the concept of God come from? Now, what I also personally believe is that the concept of God came, I believe that the concept of God came from the imagination of humans in contact with their environment. And this is what I mean, and this is how I could make my case or prove my case. If you take all religions, all faiths, or all belief systems, they all have similarities. They all have things in common. Okay, we know they all have things in common. They all have things about truth and justice and tolerance and love. All faiths and religions have that in common. But if you were to take, okay, what do they have different? If you were to take the God of the Abrahamic faiths, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, things of that nature, and Jesus' father in the stories, I would say, okay, and you read the text of those books, okay? Although there's some similarities to other faiths and other folklore and stories, there's some differences that are glaring that makes me believe that the concept of God is man-made, is man's explanation of nature or explanation of his environment for a couple of reasons. One, if you were to take all of the stories in the Bible, in the Torah and the Quran, all of the stories, here's something that they don't have, that if there was, we'll put this. When people ask, is there a God? They're talking about monotheism. When someone asks, do you believe in God, or is there a God, or do you believe supreme being, they're referring to a monotheistic tradition. They're not taking into account, what about people who still practice paganism, or who still study, or who still practice the ancient African religions or faiths, whether it be from Egypt or Ghana or Nigeria, or what about the the ancient traditions of the Native Americans in America, or the ancient traditions in Australia or in Asia? What about Shinto? What about Buddhism? What about Taoism? What about Voodoo? Usually when someone asks the question, do you believe in a God? They're already coming to you with a monotheistic lens, a monotheistic viewpoint, a monotheistic bias. Meaning that if you say, yes, I do believe in a God, and then you say something outside of that Abrahamic, that Judeo-Christian Islamic paradigm, you're just going to get backlash. Okay? But this is why I say that I tend to believe that the concept of God, or the concept of a supreme being or a higher being, is just man's interpretation of its environment or nature itself. Because there are no stories in the Bible. There are no snow stories in the Bible. Think about that. If the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is everywhere and all over the world, why are there no snow stories in the Bible? They're all based around desert. They're all based around hot or tropical climates. There are no snow stories in the Bible. There are none. Also, I would say, like, what about the Viking mythologies? The stories of Thor and Odin and Valhalla and the Valkyries and Hela, all that stuff. They have stories about frost giants and Odin taking a big sleep and a great sleep and all that stuff. But there are no desert stories. There are no stories of deserts in the Norse mythology. Also, think about the creatures that they talk about. You have in the biblical stories, you have creatures of a lamb, those are talked about in the Bible. Lambs, like actual lambs, that people, shepherds, people who look after lamb and all that stuff. But you don't have any lamb stories in the Native American traditions. You have stories about the coyote, the thunderbird, the eagle. Those stories aren't in the Bible. There's no coyote story. So the reason why I say this is because if what I've thought about is religion, or is the concept of God simply man's understanding or attempt to understand their environment? Because if you look at the stories, they got weather patterns in there. There's no snow stories in the Bible. There's plenty of snow stories in the Norse mythology. There's the animals that are being used there. You know, you have a story like the conquering lion of Judah. Well, there are no lions in Australia. What about their stories? They got stories of a kangaroo. If you're talking about one being that is everywhere, omnipresent, that means everywhere, all places. That means that everyone can see this omnipresent being. But here's the thing. Here's a few stories that all religions share that are omnipresent. One, they all talk about the sun. The sun is omnipresent because everybody on the planet has seen the sun. There ain't no mistake about it. Everyone on the planet has seen the sun. One. Two, everyone has stories dealing with stars. Why? Because everyone on the planet has seen stars. Now you haven't seen them all at the same time, but every person on the planet at one point of the day or in the existence has looked up and seen stars. They've looked up and seen the moon. They looked up and seen shooting stars. They've looked up and seen the sun. They've looked up and seen rain. Okay? Those are things that they've seen fire. They've seen thunder. Okay? Those are common stories and themes that all religions can agree on. There's a thunder god. There's fire. There's a flood somewhere. There's a bunch of fire. There's thunder. There's the ending of the world. Why there's so many ending of the world stories? My personal belief is that each civilization has seen other civilizations come and go. Because human beings travel, you see things, like I said, all cultures have a harvest story. There's a harvest story. There's a end of the harvest story. And usually when there's a harvest story and there's an end of the harvest story, crops die, people die too. You have a great, a death. So, what about the gender of God? Like I said, usually when someone asks you, do you believe in God? They're talking about the monotheistic of religions. God the Father. But what about woman? See, the reason why I ask that question is because why does God only appear to men? Why does God in the Bible only appear to mainly men? Because my thing is, if God made everything, if God in the Bible made everything, or let's say the gods of the religions, of all the religions, if each culture is believed that this particular deity or deities made existence, right? Why do they only show up in one form? I mean, well, you have Zeus turn into a bull and you have an animal representation, but if God made everything, shouldn't then God shouldn't have a specific form. Shouldn't have a specific form. Because in order to have a specific form, you would have to create just a specific thing. So for God to be a human, because they always classify God as a human, with human, or at least with human attributes. Why? Because it's easier for humans to understand that we can't understand the mind of a dog. So we wouldn't make a story about God the Father being a canine. We just wouldn't. Because it don't make sense to us. It don't make sense to our five senses. That's why we gave God human senses. If God is all knowing, all powerful, why does he only have human senses? God sees all, knows all. He's omnipresent. It means he's everywhere. It means he moves. Or he's extremely large. All knowing, that means he thinks. Self-reflection. Self-evaluation, introspection. You know. So humans made this. Or did humans make this? Did humans come up with the concept? Because if stories how when you were a kid and you were wondering why it was thunder or why it was raining, then either your grandmother, your parents would tell you, "Oh, it's raining because God is crying." Now, as kids, we believed it because we know those are our loved ones, our parents. We don't think they'll ever tell us something wrong, but we know that's not true because you can't go to school one day and learn about the water cycle and learn about evaporation, condensation, and precipitation, and then go right back to your parents or grandparents and you ask them why is it raining. They said because God is crying. Which one is it? Is God crying or is it the water cycle? Which one is it? That's a contradiction. Is God crying or is it the water cycle? Two of these things are happening to a child at the same time at school in the same day. By day, they're at school learning about the water cycle. By night, they're at home thinking that God is crying. That's why it's raining. Which one is it? So those things I've always asked those questions, and even the stories of the religion, not just the Abrahamic religion, but just religions in general, just faith systems in general. The stories, the creation stories, the apocalyptic story, or I won't say apocalyptic because that's a Greek word. The world-ending stories. They can't be talking about the entire planet. You can't talk about a flood of Noah's Ark and think, okay, if you got two of every animal, let's say you got two of every animal, right? Two of every animal go into the ark. Is that only animals that live in that region? Because you said two of every animal, male and female. So every means all. That means, what about the animals in Australia? What, the kangaroos? Did the kangaroos go over there? Did the kangaroos make it to the ark? Did the mountain lions make it to the ark? Did the Indian elephant make it to the ark? What about the anaconda? They could swim. They should be kind of cool. But what about the anaconda? What about the lemur? What about insects? Do insects make it? Did insects make it on the ark? Like grasshoppers and ticks and fleas. Those are bugs. What about spiders? Did spiders make it on the ark? Did scorpions make it to the ark? I mean, like, what animals were on the ark. It said 2 of every animal. Okay, so it was 2 of every animal. What about the crocodiles? The hippos, the rhinos? What about the jackal? What about the dingo from Australia? Did they make it on the ark? You see, the question, I'm not trying to be funny, not trying to be disrespectful, but when you do that, when you ask the question like, well, are these stories really based on history? Is there evidence for it? Or are we talking about simply a primitive understanding of nature written down? Because there are things happening in these ancient religions that we once just gave up to. Okay, this is the work of our God, such and such and such. But we now know, and we know for a long time, how these things actually happen. So, is God meant to be a personal understanding? What does God look like? And you hear the fact that I'm saying, what does he look like? You see the fact that I said, what does he look like? That's a form of indoctrination. Because, okay, let's just say if he, what about women? What about the women of the planet? Because God, let's say God gave me a mother and a father. Okay. Did God have a wife? Or did God have a female counterpart? Even in the Bible. Because in other cultures, there are male and female deities. But in the monotheistic traditions, is there a female God aside from God, beside God? Even though it says, I have no partners. So you're talking about a single male, because you're talking about male because Jesus calls him God the Father. So you're talking about a single male deity that creates all. Yet he makes it a point to give everything on life a male and female counterpart. So where's his female counterpart? Does God have a wife? Where are they? Where is God and his wife? Where are they? Now, I don't believe God is a person. I do not believe that God is an individual person. To me, he can't be a person if he creates other things that aren't people. Because a male and female dog make other dogs. A male and female cat make other cats. A male and female alligator make other alligators. A male and female human make other humans. So if God is responsible for making everything, all of those things, he can't just be a human. Or God can't just be a human if God is responsible for making everything other than humans. That's just my belief. So I do not believe that God is like, the guy you see on Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel touching the finger of Adam. No, I don't. No, I don't believe. I don't believe he's some Santa Claus gray hair looking dude. No, I just no. I don't. I believe that that's also another thing. One of the signs of wisdom was an old man with a beard. That's in Norse mythology. That's in the Buddhist tradition. The pot belly, the wrinkled skin, and the beard is a universally accepted symbol of wisdom. Old age is a symbol of wisdom. All religions have something like that. A beard represented wisdom. You see in ancient Egypt, you see they got the false beard that represented wisdom. The longer the beard, the wiser you were, because it was said that you were older in age, so you knew a lot. You knew a lot, so you get the long beard. Even though we obviously know that a long beard does not equate to wisdom. Experience and applied knowledge equates to wisdom, not a long beard. A long beard, all that long beard means is just you just don't want to shave your beard. They ain't got nothing to do with how wise you are, how long your beard is. No, it just don't. It just don't. See, these are things that we actually can prove now. Like, we know now that just because you have a long beard does not make you wise. Because you have young people growing their beards out. Are they wise? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. So, does gray hair make you wise when people gray early? I know people in their 20s who gray. Does that mean they're wise now because they got gray hair? No, of course not. So we know that long gray beards is not a true symbol of wisdom. No, we know that. Because an old man can shave his beard and still be wise. Okay. Anyway, I just want to ramble. I just want to have those thoughts, just thoughts that come to my mind. Like I said, I've always had these thoughts. I mean, I can go further, but I don't like talking. But just thoughts I always had in my head for a long period of time. I just decided to talk on them. Just shooting the breeze or whatnot. And I don't mean to offend them. Like I said, I personally believe in a supreme being. I personally do. But am I as strict as other people are in the world about God and how they view God? No, I'm not that strict. I'm a little more fluid and loose with my explanation. I'm not strict to gun ho like, oh, he looks like this and he's the father and he looks like this and he's it. I'm not that strict. I'm a little more fluid with mine. I'm a little more fluid with my explanation. But I do believe in a supreme being, my own personal. That may be different from yours or someone else's, but I do believe in a personal supreme being. I do. I don't know what name is because you just don't know it. You don't give it a name. So it's like me naming my parents. No, not naming my mother, not naming my father. Anyway, that's it. Hope y'all enjoyed my video. Hope you enjoy. Leave a comment down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hit the little bell. And I'll catch you all next Tuesday. Peace.